what's going on, y'all? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And you're about to watch a little OTB LSU.
We're going to give you all the latest, greatest between LSU football, baseball, women's basketball, softball, and everything in between.
Bottom line, if you want to talk Tigers, keep it locked, subscribe, like it, and we hope you enjoy. Seven Banks came from where?
The Ohio State University.
Okay, and then last year you had J.K. Johnson to the defensive backfield from Ohio State. Now, unfortunately, Johnson gets hurt, which was a bummer because I don't know if he's any good or not, but he definitely would have played. I mean, 1,000%.
We would have found out.
Yes, we would have gotten an idea. Or we would have found out to the extent that you could under this staff, which seemed to not do a very good job of developing guys.
That as well.
What, Taylor, did you ever get to see him during camp, or did he get hurt during camp?
He got hurt early on, one of the first
you don't
practices.
you've actually had, as begrudgingly as I want to admit it, you have had some accurate camp observations. You got nothing on JK?
No, he was riding that little scooter thing when I saw him, and then he graduated from the scooter to the boot, and then that's all I ever saw from him. I never even saw him in pads.
Now, unlike Seven Banks, he will be back, right?
Yeah,
he's a
supposed to
name
be
for
back.
next year. Okay.
Yeah, he was a young player when he came here.
So, Seven Banks from Ohio State, JK from Ohio State. Bit of bad luck with those two. Well, you know what they say, boys. Third time's a charm. Come on down, Jyaire Brown. Ohio State transfer cornerback commits to LSU. And look, this is a guy who played immediately for the Buckeyes as a true freshman, 195 snaps, had 13 targets, allowed just 5 to be completed. So, like, as a freshman, those are good numbers. It's a nice foundation to build upon. Unfortunately, it looks like his sophomore year was derailed by injury, an ankle injury. But he's originally from Louisiana, right? He was the 9th player in Louisiana a couple years ago. So taking advantage, bringing a guy home, it's a position of need. It's a guy who has played with a freshman year where he had success to the point that it becomes a bit tantalizing. And when you look at the bad injury luck for the other two Ohio State guys, who knows, Jake? Maybe Brown got his injury luck out of the way this sophomore season with the ankle.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to look up right now. I'm trying to just see maybe how this year did go him as far as snaps and Pro Football Focus and kind of some of his better games. You get
said 48 snaps, 1 target on what Taylor linked here.
He only played, he played 11 snaps against Youngstown State, 11 against Western Kentucky, 11 against Purdue, and 15 against Michigan State. Now, all good grades when he played. I mean, graded in the low 70s for the year. So, but just not a lot there. And
what about do you have his freshman year grades?
I can, yeah.
Sorry, I don't know how tough that is to find on the site on the fly there. Taylor, you're again the guy who's kind of most into the roster management portion of college football nowadays. What's your take on, or what do you want to do? Let's do that grade first. What's his sophomore grade?
So, like you mentioned, he played 195 snaps. Let's look at some of the Arkansas State, 72%, Michigan State, 70%, struggled against Iowa, 53%, then comes back.
Yeah, look, when you play Iowa, I mean, you got to watch
Probably a lot of run fits.
You got to watch out for those receivers, dog.
Probably a lot of run fits. Remember, this takes everything into account. Northwestern bounce back game after that, 74%. Against Indiana, 69%. Against Maryland, 62%. And against Georgia, he only played 1 snap, but 60%. So you look at his best games were Northwestern and Indiana in Week 10 and Week 11.
Wait, that's kind of funny, right? You play 1 snap, but you get a 60% grade? He did something like half right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought the percentage was just like you either got a plus or minus on the play. So I thought if you played 1 snap, that'd be like a 0 or 100. That's funny.
Sometimes, so Pro Football Focus, it's not necessarily always a plus minus. Like, they'll look at different, like 3 different factors sometimes, depending on what the play is. Like, if you had a pressure or a few or in coverage, or I just plus or minus. I'm trying to think which. That's more Rotten Tomatoes. No, what we were talking about yesterday. I was trying to think.
Well, no, but also, I mean, when we did our like in-house grades at Ellis, like my whole time playing football, it was always just you either got a plus or minus on the play. And then that was gonna determine your grade. Even if you did a lot of good, if you did one thing bad enough to get a minus, then you got that.
I guess the one good thing, as I'm seeing here, and the grades aren't bad by any means, but
better than what you got.
The things, yes, because there's a lot of red in the ones that you have, and there's not a lot of red here on this page. The most plays that he played that year were against Wisconsin, Indiana, Northwestern, and Maryland. So his 4 most played games were against Big Ten opponents. So played a lot that year, 195 snaps, like you mentioned, T. His lowest grade, if you take the one play against Georgia away, was 63%.
Okay, so DJ13 says, Jyaire not from here. He's from Ohio. He lived here a long time, went to Easton, and then went back to Ohio in his 10th grade year. Okay, so he's kind of had 2 homes then, Louisiana and Ohio, and this is him returning to one of his homes. And
he finished it in Westchester.
And look, this may not be like an All-American pickup. You know, I don't know what his eventual fate will be, but I do think it is painfully clear that he is better than what you have had. And Ohio State has really good secondary. They have for a while now, so not starting there, there's no shame in that. Versus if he comes in here, like he'll have a very good chance of being a starter. Or at least as open of a path to fighting for that job as
you
anywhere.
need bodies. And you need, quality bodies and guys that, are players that have played in the Big Ten and had moments and trying to find themselves to stay healthy and be back on the field. Coming out of high school, rivals had him 167th best player in the country, 16th corner, the 9th player in the state of Ohio. Ohio's one of those Texas, California.
Okay, yeah, that's massive.
Yeah, Florida type situations. ESPN had him as a top 300 player. He was 222, 28th best corner, 8th in Ohio. In fact, his worst was On 3, who had him as the 40th best corner, the 12th best player in Ohio. 247 Sports had him at 30 and 11.
Taylor, what's your take on Jyaire coming back here?
Yeah, I'm excited about it. He's a guy that's been in the portal actually for a while. It's been a few months. It's not a guy who just jumped in last week, committed to LSU. He took his time. He looked for the best fit for him. We mentioned he has ties to Louisiana. And if you go look at, some of the offers he had coming out of the portal, he could have went a lot of different places to a lot of big-time schools. LSU is not the only one that was after him. He has 2 years of eligibility left, which I love. We've mentioned all the snaps he's played. And T-Bob, you mentioned it earlier. Like, is he worse than what we have? It's like, oh, well, Ohio State players haven't worked out here. It doesn't matter. You take any corner you can get at this point. That's where I'm at right now.
And we don't know. Like, okay, 2 years ago, Seven Banks doesn't play because you actually really hit on Jared Bernard Converse and Mekhi Gardner. Those were good players. Last year, J.K. Johnson doesn't play because of bad injury.
Yeah, he's never played a snap at LSU.
And there still is the other factor that what we keep talking about or kept talking about when we were kind of evaluating what job we thought the coaches did is that maybe we haven't gotten a full or accurate representation of any of these guys, right? I mean, Stamps and Toviano were freshmen and they struggled at times this year. But what happens not only when they're not just freshmen, but like if they get a secondaries coach that is better at developing, whoever that may be, right? Like if they hire a successful coach, maybe we haven't even gotten truly fair or accurate pictures of the people you do have. And so in theory, this is somebody that you think is probably better than what you have. We don't know. But either way, it's just a great pickup that should be ready to play immediately this next season at a position where you desperately need it. This is great roster management here. And again, the portal giveth, or the portal taketh away, certainly, but the portal giveth as well. And I love it. I love it. Because now, unless you get just horribly unlucky again like you did this last season, and you've seen them kind of avoid taking the risks of going after like a Denver Harris this time around. But unless you get horribly unlucky, a move like this also gives you insurance that you won't be thrust into such a corner that you have to switch Sage Ryan to playing cornerback on the outside. Like, this is why the portal is improved the overall quality of football in the country, is because you can plug these holes with at least serviceable guys, if nothing less.
We talked about it the other day. Like, is Toviano playing out of position? We don't know yet. He was kind of that hybrid safety corner coming into LSU. And T-Bob, outside of Zy Alexander, if he decides to come back, like J.K. Johnson would have played more college snaps than anybody in your cornerback room right now, including Toviano and Stamps. I mean, he's played over 200 snaps in his college career. So you could say, well, he's played 2 years. He's had some mixed opinions on him. But, I mean, you need experience in that room bad, and he brings at least a little bit of that.
Shabbos says, don't understand even pursuing Denver Harris was and is a character issue. Well, that's no different than how, stuff you used to talk about with the NFL all the time, right? Like, why did this team give this guy a chance? He just got arrested for domestic violence. That's awful. And that's like completely fair. But the kind of dirty truth, kind of nasty underbelly is that if you're good enough, you get more opportunity. This is what it is, especially in business where you're in the business of trying to win games. But certainly it is funny that, it blew up just as spectacularly as the doubters and the people who said that you should not have pursued Denver Harris. It blew up just as spectacularly as you thought it would. But because he has so much raw physical ability, he's going to get opportunities that others do not. Wow, Jake. What incredible takes.
I mean, those guys, they're just the best.
I think so. And if you think so, again, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post every single day here on OTB LSU.